Right, for the last one, my ugly point, and I've specifically picked this for ugly because it's more of a nuanced one than just bad. Like, I do think you should pick between, but you shouldn't just make bad and ugly the same concept. I've just put Ropz is going to have to probably miss Katowice for FaZe, basically. Because if people don't know, this is, in a way, this is why it's also ugly. It's not purely bad, because essentially, if people can't remember, when we had the first LAN last year, IEM Cologne, if you remember, there were teams there that were having issues, like some of them were popping for COVID, or they had to stay in there. But at the time, they just said, because everyone was in a room anyway until he got to the part where you played in like a studio environment or whatever, they essentially just said back then, whatever, you just all play from your rooms, don't you? Because now they're trying to go back to a true LAN scenario. Even if Ropz is at the event, he has to just stay in quarantine and effectively can't play in the tournament unless they're still in Katowice whenever he would be finished in, like, I don't know, 10 days or something like that. So the downside is, to me, it's ugly in the sense that, like, it's obviously just ruined the storyline for FaZe. Now we can't see how Ropz is playing. He was looking really good. To me, it was also another one of those moves where it was obviously only a single player change. It should have been one of the easiest to integrate. They, in theory, could have, if they were going to be really good, this should have been an event they could have broke out at and had a top placing. But at the same time, I can't say it's totally bad. Like, in a weird way, the fact that he will be excluded and not like the old rules actually in some ways suggests maybe we're moving back towards the world we all want to be in, as opposed to the world where it's like, it's a LAN, but this team just played the whole thing from their hotel room. Like, that also did fucking suck, or we had to make those weird distinctions of like what a real LAN is, you know?
Yeah, the LAN light and all that shit. Yeah, I also fucking hated that because they played well. At Blast, Ropz also played super good, and you know, it feels bad like phases. It's almost like there's some curse over the team that's like, you can never really like just get there and like make it happen. I think he can still make the event. Like, I don't know how many games he's gonna miss. Like, if he gets an early like negative test, right? I don't know what exactly the protocol is, but he can still attend at some point, depending on how the testing goes. But yeah, that sucks. Hopefully nothing else happens, because for me, I think it's like at this point it you know, like it should be treated. There shouldn't be such a big deal out of it, right? Because I think it's kind of obvious that these newer strains are also like much milder, and you know, even when I've had it, like the start of January, all of my friends, everyone I knew had it. It's like a day you're feeling like a little bit bad, and then after that, it's gone, right? Like, and we can see that the countries are opening up more, getting rid of all the measures and stuff. So I'm really optimistic about like COVID not being like too big of a factor in the future. At least I'm super confident that we'll be able to have LANs for all the big tournaments, right? Like, obviously the major is going to be a LAN, you know, Blast Springs finals are going to be a LAN, Cologne is going to be, and not just LAN, but LAN with a crowd. Yes. Because at this point, you not making it a LAN is more you not being willing or able to go like the length you need to go. If a country like Denmark is getting rid of like all the fucking you know, measures and whatnot, like, then, you know, Blast worst case can do a spring final in a sort of a studio environment with like 300-500 people, which is still pretty cool, right? With how close they are, you know. Even when we played that thing in London, the spring groups in 2020, it was still like kind of cool. You could still hear the fans a little bit, right? It's better than just what you get for group stages in, you know, at IEMs, where, you know, you're in that thing when there's no people there, right? You get at least a little bit of a feeling. So yeah, I'm not, you know, I think hopefully it's going to get better. I'm not going to go on a limb and compare what's going on to the Holocaust, right, or anything crazy like that. But, yeah, I think like that things should start easing up sooner rather than later, and that hopefully we'll be back to normal by summer or so.
See, the only thing that annoys me about that Yanko is, of all the people who were getting really mad, so people are going to really tell me that you can't spend years just comparing things inappropriately to the Nazis. Well, isn't this fucking rich, isn't it? I don't know if any of y'all are aware. Shall I pull up some of my haters for the last fucking, let's just say, since Donald Trump was elected, because we all know that was the real moment that apparently just shattered reality like fucking Thanos or some shit at the end of Infinity War. I don't know why that one moment just made the whole world go mental, but whatever. It is what it is at this point. I've learned to just deal with it, so whatever. Indeed, there has been some bold comparisons, let's just say that.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna move away from the politics, bring it back to the love of the game, the spirit of the game. That even though
I've got a question for you, Maui, because here's the thing.
I was like you many years ago.
Here's the thing, Maui, you could just do the safe thing and explain that, yeah, you know, FaZe could you rock, but there was a secret reason I also slipped this one under there. There's been some, listen, There's been some slander of Ropz I've been seeing of you on some of these shows. So I also want to confront you. So I want to hear your thoughts first, but then I've got a little bit of pushback for you on this one.
Okay, well, if you want to, my opinion on Ropz, to put it out there as publicly as possible, is just that I'm a bit of a person that undervalues I think he's mad overrated. I think Ropz is like probably the most overrated player in all of tier 1 CS. Actually, I think that he has if you took away the stats and looked at rounds where he actually creates winning impact, it's not nearly as high as his stats are there for. That's my take on Ropz. I think that Ropz is incredibly talented. He's it's really cool to watch his methodical way to play out every situation, because it's almost like you're using a poker bot when you're playing Hold'em, when you actually get told exactly what you should do on every hand based off of pot odds.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like Ropz is mentally calculating that all the time. So in terms of demos to watch to learn the game, he's fantastic. In terms of actually always making the play that's going to win in that moment, or in the greater scheme of things, I don't think he's always doing that. I feel like he's frequently dude, why did you not try that 1v2 even though the bomb still had 25 seconds left and you're this mechanically gifted? What's going on here? I've seen him say he was the A player for Mouse Sports, and he would save the opposing team, the T side, would hit the A bomb site, and he'd be in apartments.
This is on Mirage, I'm guessing we're talking about, right?
No, on Inferno. On
Inferno, right, okay.
On Inferno, he would be in the apartments. He'd get a kill in the apartments, and then just not ever peek again for the entire round. And it's just dude, this is a good post-plant situation for a retake, and you decide that you're not even going to try to even go for a jiggle at any point in this. It's just shameless. It's just shameless to me sometimes. The way he plays is so stats-driven. I will say that what I saw from him from FaZe was more motivated and more inspired, and it was actually a much better look for him, because I'm not, even though I'm a hater in terms of how he plays the game, I'm not a hater as who he is as the person. I wouldn't I'm not one of those craze fans that just wish ill will, or they wish that you put the foot under them as they take a jump shot so they break their ankle. I don't want that to happen in the game or anything like that. I want the best team possible out there to play. So it's a bummer, because I want to see him continue on this path to play motivated, inspired again under Kerrigan, play what looked like winning Counter-Strike, and try to because I want to be proven wrong in these sort of situations so that I can enjoy the CS more, as opposed to just hating on this little micro thing that he's doing where it's okay, that's efficient, but it's not actually winning.
Oh, so you don't like him, but you're just saying you're not going out of your limb and sending him death threats and shit.
No.
Okay.
But the thing is that what you said as well, that round, it's winnable, you can just peek and so on, you just need to hide. Well, and the reason why it's different this phase might also be because his teammates fucking sucked in Mouse, so he felt he's gonna be better off.
So just preserve the stats. Just preserve.
No, it's not just the stats. It feels you feel if you bait your teammate, even though it's not the ideal play, it's if you are the bait for him, he's still not going to be able to do shit. So even though that's the correct play, because you don't think he's going to be able to do it, you're going for the less percentage play, but in your head it's higher, because you're more confident in your ability with a worse play than your teammates with a better play, right? And obviously on FaZe, he has really skilled teammates, so he can just play how it's supposed to be done, and then he has a twist or a Rain who's going to trade him, he knows how to react to that. So that wouldn't be beyond me, even though in my experience, good players, they never really think like that. Even with Nico and Cold, when they had some bad teammates at different rosters, right? They would still kind of try to go for the correct play, even though it didn't work, then they would just be depressed afterwards because, someone misses a kill in the back. But yeah.
Right, here's the pushback I have, Maui. Now, I've got a little bit more with. There's still more you haven't said, but we'll draw that out here in a minute, right? So we'll address the first point. So first things first, here's my issue. Look, it's very easy to get drawn into recency bias, because the stuff we remember the most recently, we all, if people don't get this, right, one of the reasons it's stupid to me, that fans are if you really, why don't you just pull up a video example of what you're talking about? Because if you actually followed the game like we all did, we're doing that in our brains as we speak anyway. That's what we're talking about when we're doing style of play, or when the person's good, or how we're basically remembering really quickly basically like 15 different really significant moments in our mind that we couldn't just like break down and articulate. Essentially, you just have to take for granted that we know what we're talking about, right? When we do that, it's easy if you're talking about the Ropz that played at the majors specifically, that era of mouse sports. I do think in that era of mouse sports, he was completely checked out. He knew this team's never going anywhere, and I should already be in a FaZe clan or a team like that. Essentially, I have to just wait for these business motherfuckers to just get the deal done. I want to be there. They want me to be there. The players, everyone basically wants this deal done, but I have to wait. And by the way, Yanko can tell you, it's the most annoying shit of all time when you're waiting for a deal that's supposed to happen because you feel like it never got to start yet. You're like, right, this isn't real what we're doing now, is it? This is just fucking spinning our wheels till this guy gets here. So unfortunately, I will say, I could imagine totally there's a world where it's like Yanko says, right? If my teammates are people who I've played with for months and months and months and months now, and they just haven't made progress, and they just don't make the right plays, I'm going to have trust issues. Like, yeah, I agree, you look like a cunt mouse, Nick, if you do it. And it's not, by the way, it's also, I do think in his case, he knew he was getting in a phase anyway. But if you were truly auditioning, it's also not a great look. Someone might actually look like you're saying and go, maybe his stats are inflated, maybe he's just baiting, basically. But I'll give you the example of my favourite basketball player, Kobe, right? There's a brilliant explanation he once gave to a guy where the guy basically just said to him, like, why are you the way you are? Like, why are you so hard on your teammates? And he said, because I know the guy who doesn't even come to practice early. In fact, he turns up 2 minutes before practice. He's like eating a burger and then he just plays half-assed at the practice because it's a practice. And then in the game, he wants me to pass him the ball because he's open. It's like, why would I pass him the ball? I'll take the shot myself over a defender. Like, the difference is I can rely on what I'm going to do. And I'll just, and the premise there is, look, obviously Kobe would tell you, in theory, the player who's open should have a higher percentage. But his point that he's making is he actually can't rely on that guy, even if he's open to make the shot. Like, it actually might be better for me to take a shot over a defender, even if it's a worse shot. Because I know I put in all the practice. Like, I actually know what I could do. And unfortunately, I've seen loads of really great players when they think a lineup's gone to shit, do that. Just basically play like in a bit of a cunty way, but their logic is it's fucked as it sounds. I always said this. It's why I never actually criticised Nico's drive for the game of Counter-Strike. I believe he always thought he was doing the right thing at each point in time. I believe he actually genuinely just didn't think Carrigan was that good at that point in time for him as the IGL. I can believe all that. I'm not like saying he's like faking or pretending. It's just I disagree obviously with whether that's how you would execute it like you do here. My problem is this, and this is the last part that I did set up. Right, I was cool with the slander when it was just essentially he's being a bit of a cunt. But then I think you did. This is where I want to see if you can defend this. You then tried. Now listen, we all know the best way to make 1 point is to make a really edgy side point, isn't it? That sort of, woo. Here's what you said. You tried to make the case, but the others I noticed weren't even fucking listening on that podcast. Because one of those shows where everyone's on a second monitor the whole time. They don't listen like I do. But here's the thing, Murray, I do listen. So you were this close to saying that Frozen is better than Ropz. True. Frozen is better than Ropz, right?
I know the way I put it for Frozen versus Ropz is that when Frozen has a 1.2 rating in a game, they win the game. When Ropz has a 1.2 rating, that's just any game. It has no bearing on the winningness or the losingness of whatever team Ropz is on.
That's it. Yes, that's how you phrased it. Here's my problem with that. It's an obvious follow-up. I hope you have considered. Because in the games where Frozen has the 1.1 odd rating, Ropz probably also does really well. He's fucking almost always doing well. The problem is this, right? If I take out Ropz and you only have Frozen, and I take out Frozen, I only have Ropz, which team's doing better? I think it's going to be the latter. You can disagree, but that's my problem with that. Essentially what you've done there is you've took someone who doesn't have the expectation of being the star player, and it would be like doing the same thing about Bit. Like, I'm sure when Bit has the best stats in Na'Vi, they've never lost a game. But the point is, like you can't say he's better than Simple, can you? Because the team construction wouldn't be the same. So where do you fall on that one? That's what's confused me a little bit. I get what you mean by that. I agree. If you want to talk who's the more impactful player, but to me, it's almost like it's basically like what people talked about with the whole device thing in the past, where they didn't want him to be the MVP. It's like if you think about the team, they wouldn't even be in the final. When you talk about the other guy would never have a chance to win an MVP, would he?
Right. Okay. So it's kind of just that. I think where I put it is that overall, Ropz is a marginally better player. Marginally. All right. I don't put him even much higher than Frozen, but it's just a little bit.
Do you hold Frozen in high regard? We should probably state whether that's a guess or not. I don't know where you have him.
What do you mean? Where do I have him? Like,
I mean, when you say that, people are going to, if you think Frozen's just an average player, it's not that great a statement, is it? Like, I would say, put it this way, if we were doing that, like, top 20, top 30 thing, if you did another 10 or 15 after the top 20, Frozen would be in that mix, right?
Oh, Frozen's top 25 probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, in terms of
I actually think he's a very good player. Yeah.
In terms of the kind of like more aggressive playmaking riflers, I think he's probably top 10. in that
right.
role.
Okay.
So yeah,
Fair
I think
play.
so I think it's just that so
He's better than fucking Rez, that's for sure.
yes,
There you go.
He's smarter than Rez. He's improved more than Rez.
I mean, here's a depressing game if you're Device. It's called How Many Players in the Current Mouse Sports Lineup Are Better Than NIP Players? And spoiler, it's way more than Device wants to hear about, that's for sure.
where I would basically, I guess, push back on like the public narrative with Ropz and versus Frozen a little bit. It's just kind of like, I think people think Ropz is leaps and bounds better than him, but I think for one, a lot of the spots and roles that Ropz gets to play and the way he gets so many of his stats is like, it's just so much more selfish and doesn't like, because it doesn't have impact in the round or them winning the game. I personally don't count those, like people just look at the numbers and that's where it's just fucked. You know?
I'm with you on that.
Because people just look at the numbers and they think, oh, Ropz 88 ADR and Frozen 79 ADR, but it's like every time that Frozen got like a 2K, that opened up a huge part of the map that basically won them the round. Whereas Ropz gets like a 2K in a 1v4 because the other team got bored. You know, so those kind of moments are where the stats get very skewed, and I think it's a little bit more of me pushing back against what the stats say more than me actually like trying to say that Frozen's just way better than Ropz.
No, I'm with you on that.
I think they're very equal. I think they're actually very equal, and I think it's just like it's a slim margin, but Ropz is better at his Ropz, like the value over replacement is kind of how I would see it for Ropz in that spot versus Frozen in his spot. Like Ropz is better at that lurk spot in regard to the worldly the players in the world than Frozen is at his.
Go on.
I mean, the other premise is like the roles itself. I would much rather have Rain get 30 kills every game than Nico. If Rain gets 30 kills, we're 90% winning the game.
Yes,
because of where he is and how that makes it easier for everyone else. It doesn't matter if Nico gets some other kills, someone else, like someone's gonna get the rest of the, like we're probably at that point we're like in a 5v3 pushing in or 4v3, 4v2. We're just supposed, like we just have to not fuck it up, right? But you know, it's true that sometimes the players on the sides, it also depends where they play on the CT side. Like the guy who plays T-Apps on Mirage doesn't always play like connector, which is also a star player role on the CT side. So, like Ropz for a while, like he played A anchor, right? And it just plays it passive, like drops a smoke, falls back. You know, like it depends how much action you see on the CT side, which also gets in on the kills. So I think for that, right, like there is a little bit of it being inflated in a sense, and that's why it's always weird to me when people were surprised. Oh yeah, but when Frozen has a good game, they win. Yeah, it's because of like where he plays. It's like that for every team. If you take those two players and compare it, right? If Bit has 30 kills, right, Navi is probably going to like win the game. He's just killing everyone in like the mid round, the opening of the rounds, right? Like so.
What I would just say, by the way, though, because this is a topic I've had the whole time when I knew Ropz was going, the good news is this. We don't have to speculate. We're going to find out this year, because the best news, in my opinion, is this. Ropz basically is in the position Frozen was, the other way around. Frozen is in the position Ropz was a couple of years ago. Like, it's now his turn to potentially be a player who's way too good for Mouse, but on an okay Mouse squad. Actually, funnily enough, he has a better Mouse squad, I'd argue, than Ropz got last year, but he's got some pretty decent pieces around him. So if he hard carries at the end of this year, he'll be in the same spot. He'll get his call up to one of the top teams that needs a big star rifler, and then maybe he becomes a top player. 'Cause I'm with you. I do think he's next in line. I think he looks like a very good player.
I have to remember another thing, which is also mental. Ropz right now, Frozen right now is 19 years old. Like Mouse's best year was 2019. He was 16 at the time. Right? I think he's turning 20 this year, but you know, it doesn't matter. Still, like he's super fucking young, and yes, he's been getting experience and getting better. I think people really underestimate as well. It's not just how better you get as a player, how much experience you get as a player with crowds, with games. It's like how you mature as a human being as well, right? Like how you change the way you, like, you know, conduct yourself and so on. You realize how to be a better teammate, how to get more out of your teammates, like how to really be a leader. That's why I said with that last Mouse lineup, it's like Ropz is fucking 21. Like he cannot be a leader of men at, you know, he's your most experienced player. On top of that, he's a quiet guy, like, you know, but no matter who, if you get like a CIS player, right, like still if he's 21, you know, you can see like how awkward it is a little bit in Gambit. For me, that's always their biggest, for me, they need another hype up guy, except for Nafani, right? Like, it just feels so awkward when you watch them play. Like, and he is the in-game leader, so he's like kind of trying to do it. the Hobbit as the oldest guy is one of the quietest, right? So like you need to have that dynamic in your team to really be super successful, right? For Gambit, they have the individuals, they have the Counter-Strike they're playing is solid. That's what they're missing. For some other teams, it's different things, but you can't really neglect that factor when you're talking about like championship winning teams.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.